Now, meanwhile, Senator Dick Durbin, during this hearing, decided to try to explain why Antifa is not nearly as big a threat as the people who rioted one time in D.C. 2 months ago. I appreciate at least that he's attempting, because usually the left and the Democrats, they simply ignore this point about Antifa and BLM and all the rioting that they do and have done, continue to do, in fact. But here at least he's trying to offer some sort of justification, and here's what he comes up with.
I join my Republican colleagues unequivocally in condemning left-wing violence, but let's stop pretending that the threat of Antifa is equivalent to the white supremacist threat. Vandalizing a federal courthouse in Portland is a crime. It should be prosecuted to the full extent of the law, but it is not equivalent to a violent attempt to overturn the results of elections, nor is it equivalent to mass shootings targeting minority communities. This false equivalency is an insult to the brave police officers who were injured or lost their lives on January 6th, as well as dozens of others who've been murdered in white supremacist attacks. We need to be abundantly clear that the white supremacists and other extremists are the most significant domestic terrorism threat facing the United States today. I hope everyone in this room can look at the facts and acknowledge this, and we can come together on a bipartisan basis to defeat this threat.
We're going to move past the fact that it sounded like he said abundantly queer there, and we're going to move past it, and we're not going to focus on that part of it coming from a Democratic senator. But what's an insult? He says it's an insult to the police officers. Well, what's an insult is that you and the other Democrats are callously using Officer Sicknick's death as a pawn, as a political chip that you're throwing down on the table. You know, you're using it as a prop. That's what's insulting. It's also insulting to all of the many thousands of victims of Antifa and BLM rioting across the country over the summer. People who had their businesses burned down, their houses burned down, people who were killed, assaulted, they're terrorized in their neighborhoods, cancer-stricken children at cancer centers. No, it's insulting that you're ignoring them and you're boiling all of that down to vandalism of a courthouse. All of that. Everything that you watched happen over the summer, you didn't really see any of that. None of that actually happened. You're imagining things. All of that was really vandalism of one single courthouse. I mean, forget about the police station that was invaded and burned to the ground, sending police officers fleeing for their lives. Forget about that. You know, that didn't happen either. None of these things happened. It was all simply vandalism of a courthouse. And yeah, you're right. If you're comparing the simple vandalism of a courthouse by some crazy kids, you're comparing that to what happened on January 6th, and the thing that happened on January 6th is a lot worse. Unfortunately, Dick Durbin is inventing that. He has created his own version of the Antifa riots. That's not the reality. Even the so-called vandalism, no, they were trying to burn it down. They were shooting like fireworks at it. This was a siege that lasted for weeks on end. There's a lot more than graffiti even to that courthouse. But of course, the issue is not just the courthouse. And if you were to I say that at least Dick Durbin made some attempt to explain why January 6th was worse than the BLM rioting, whereas most Democrats will ignore the question. But he didn't really make any attempt at all when you listen to it, because he's not acknowledging what actually happened. And by the way, trying to overturn the results of the election, was there ever any chance of that happening? Was there ever even the slightest threat of that happening? Well, I hope you enjoyed that clip from the Matt Walsh Show. If you did, go ahead and hit that subscribe button right down there so you can stay up to date on all of our future content.